Over the past couple of days, just as the war between the US and Iran has apparently cooled down, another war in the Middle East, this one between the Houthis and Saudi Arabia, has het up. Both sides have chucked missiles and drones at each other, and things only look likely to escalate in the near term. So in this video, we're going to explain why the Saudis and Houthis never really got on, why the war has restarted recently, and why all of this leaves Saudi Arabia with a difficult dilemma. Which country has the world's best flag? It's not an important question, certainly not as important as the topic of this video, but we'd still want an answer. So we've set up a survey that lets you vote on your favourite flag from a bunch of random matchups. It's actually really fun. Cast your vote now by clicking the link in the description. So to understand this story, you need to know a bit about Yemen's politics. This is very much an abridged history, but Yemen was originally two separate states, South Yemen and North Yemen. South Yemen originated with the British protectorate of Aden. The British captured the port of Aden in the 19th century because they thought the port was in a strategically advantageous location. The port itself was a colony, in other words, directly ruled by the British Crown, but the surrounding area was established as a protectorate, which basically meant that it was under British jurisdiction, but effectively governed by local tribes. The boundaries of the Aden protectorate basically map onto what would become South Yemen. South Yemen achieved independence from the British in the 60s, with Aden as its capital, and promptly turned into a Marxist-Leninist one-party state, making it the only avowedly communist nation in the Middle East. North Yemen also came into being as a state during the 60s, when local Arab revolutionaries staged a coup against King Mohammed al-Badr, whose family had taken power after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and established the Yemen Arab Republic with Sana'a as its capital. Neither Yemen, though, was able to achieve political stability. On top of two wars between the two Yemens in 1972 and 1979, both countries were beset by civil war. In the 80s, South Yemen essentially collapsed after the implosion of the ruling Yemeni Socialist Party, and North Yemen was beset by infighting between the Shia tribes in the north and the Sunni population in the south. In North Yemen, successive presidents were either ousted or assassinated, until the arrival of President Ali Abdullah Saleh in 1978. Saleh was able to hold on to power for more than a decade, and in 1990, his North Yemen essentially subsumed South Yemen, which was basically a failed state at this point, thus creating the modern state of Yemen. Now, the key thing to understand here is that the Shia tribes in the north were never particularly keen on Saleh or his government. Many of them felt that they were being marginalized and didn't like Saleh's alignment with Saudi Arabia and the US after 9/11. This fueled a sort of protest movement led by a tribal leader called Hussein al-Houthi, which gained real traction in the early 2000s. Saleh's government tried to arrest him in 2004, but al-Houthi and his followers resisted, triggering a sort of civil war, which ended with al-Houthi's death that September. For the next few years, there were reoccurring skirmishes between Yemeni government forces and al-Houthi's followers, who have since become known as the Houthis. Saleh's reign finally came to an end in 2011, when, as part of the Arab Spring, protests across Yemen forced him to stand down and hand over power to his deputy, Abdrabbuh Mansour Hadi. While Hadi was originally quite popular, he was constantly undermined by the army and security forces, who were still loyal to Saleh and forced constant factional infighting. In 2014, in an attempt to stem the infighting, he proposed a new federal Yemen, divided into 6 states, but this was soundly rejected by the Houthis, because the region that included the Houthis' heartland lacked access to the Red Sea or any oil fields. This marked a full-blown war between the Hadi government and the Houthis. Originally, the Houthis looked like they were going to win. They quickly took Sana'a and started pushing towards Aden, where Hadi's government had relocated to. This is when the Saudis intervened, both because they didn't want an unruly Shia-dominated Houthi state on their southern border, and because the Houthis were backed by Iran, then the Saudis' regional nemesis. Anyway, the intervention was successful insofar as it halted the Houthis' advance, but the Houthis were able to hold on to Sana'a and most of northwestern Yemen, and the war promptly settled into a territorial stalemate. This was in part because Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the two big players in the anti-Houthi coalition, ended up backing different factions. Saudi Arabia supported Hadi's government, while the UAE backed the Southern Transitional Council, or STC, a separatist group that wants the South to secede from Yemen proper. Anyway, after years of fighting, a ceasefire was finally agreed in April 2022. Negotiations on a permanent settlement began a few months later, but they were derailed by October 7th and Israel's subsequent war on Gaza. As an expression of solidarity with the Palestinians, the Houthis announced a military campaign against Israel, which involved shooting at ships transiting to or from Israel via the Red Sea. Unfortunately, this basically disrupted all shipping in the area, which irked Saudi Arabia. Nonetheless, the Houthis were careful not to strike targets in Saudi Arabia during their campaign, and even if no permanent settlement was forthcoming, the ceasefire held up. That was until early this month, when the Houthis opened Sana'a airport to allow an Iranian plane to fly some Houthi officials back to the country, the first direct flight between Yemen and Iran since 2015. The Houthis accused Saudi Arabia of deploying fighter jets to scare the plane off, but it was still ultimately able to land. The Houthis then sort of pushed their luck by using the same plane to fly a Houthi delegation from Sana'a to Tehran to attend the funeral of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. An Iranian plane then flew the delegation back to Sana'a, but this time the Saudis decided they'd had enough, and their proxies in Yemen attacked Sana'a airport directly, forcing the plane to change course and land in the Red Sea port of Hodeidah. The Houthis retaliated by firing missiles and drones at Abba Airport in the kingdom's south last week and imposing a blockade on all ships going in or out of Saudi ports via the Bab el-Mandeb. The Houthis have since struck a number of ships transiting Saudi ports in the Red Sea, as well as a whole load of Saudi oil infrastructure, including perhaps most notably the Jazan refinery, which usually processes something like 400,000 barrels a day. Interestingly, Saudi Arabia has also been attacked by drones originating in Iraq over the past couple of days, suggesting that Iran's various proxies are coordinating against the Saudis. So what happens next? Well, it's sort of up to the Saudis. Broadly speaking, they have two options. The first is to fight back, in the hopes of re-establishing deterrence or even taking back some territory, which was their original aspiration back in 2015. Alternatively, they could sue for peace, essentially offering some sort of concession to the Houthis, like for instance more money for civil servants in Houthi-controlled areas. This would obviously look a bit weak, but it would advance the Saudis' overarching strategic priority at the moment, which is clearly restoring some semblance of stability to the Middle East, so that they can get back to exporting tons of oil and re-establishing themselves as a safe haven for international capital. Now, this is a huge story, and I can imagine that you felt pretty helpless by the headlines recently. And trust us, so have we. And that's not just because we want a comforting story, it's because we need evidence that doing something still matters. You may feel that individual actions are meaningless, but what if we told you that as a community, you can still make a difference? Well, that's why we joined Planet Wild. Planet Wild is not just your usual environmental organization. It's a passionate community of over 25,000 members, including myself, built around a clear focus: protecting and conserving the world we all live in. We're more aware than ever that the world is a scary place, and the state of our planet needs to change. So every single month, the Planet Wild community funds a mission to protect endangered animals, restore our forests, and clean our oceans. The best part is they document all of the missions through videos on their YouTube channel, so we get to see what our contributions help to achieve. Examples of their incredible work span from training dogs to protect loggerhead sea turtles, restoring the cloud forests of Colombia, to turning a former fish farm into a beaver habitat. So where do you and I come in? Well, by becoming a member, we're directly funding a brand new nature mission from the comfort of our own home. With Planet Wild, you can make an impact without being on the ground yourself. Big or small, your difference matters, and you can contribute as little as $6 a month to help protect nature and give back to the planet that we all share. It's no secret that we're huge fans of Planet Wild, so much so that the first 100 people to sign up with the code NEWSGLOBAL7 will get their first month paid for directly by us. All you have to do is scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description to get started. You can cancel your membership at any time, so there's absolutely no catch with Planet Wild. It's just an amazing way to give back to nature and create a real lasting change. And you'll never be left hanging as to where your money goes, as you'll be able to see the impact in less than 30 days right here on YouTube. So if you want to see them in action, check out their mission transforming a former fish farm into a beaver habitat.